Imagine this. You've packed your car, filled it with supplies, and you're buzzing with excitement because you're heading to Burning Man 2025. After months of planning, the moment is finally here. But just as you're ready to roll into Black Rock City, a massive dust storm hits the Nevada desert, and suddenly the main gates are shut down. Thousands of cars are stranded, people are stuck for hours, and the energy shifts from excitement to uncertainty. This year's Burning Man opened with dramatic delays as weather forced organizers to shut down the festival's entry points, leaving burners across Nevada frustrated and anxious. And while the gates have now reopened, challenges continue. Long waits, shifting weather, and even grounded flights at the event's volunteer-built airport. So what really happened out there in the desert? Let's break it all down. Burning Man isn't just another festival. It's a pop-up city built from scratch every year in Nevada's Black Rock Desert. Tens of thousands gather to create a world fueled by art, music, and radical self-expression. But with all of its creativity comes one very real challenge: the harsh desert environment. Blazing heat, freezing nights, and unpredictable storms are part of the deal. And this year, nature made its presence felt in a big way. Just as burners were arriving, dust storms slammed into the playa, forcing organizers to close the gates entirely. For hours, cars sat motionless on the highway, lined up for miles, while attendees tried to conserve fuel, ration water, and wait out the weather. It was a reminder that Burning Man is never just about showing up. It's about surviving the elements too. By Monday morning, organizers announced that the gates were open again. Relief washed over attendees, but the good news came with a major caveat. Entering the city would take time. Reports said travelers faced wait times of 6 to 8 hours to finally make it through the entrance. Imagine sitting in the desert sun, creeping forward in line, while dust still swirls in the air. Organizers urged patience, reminding everyone of Burning Man's principle of radical self-reliance. That means coming prepared with food, water, and shelter long before you set foot in Black Rock City. For some, the delays tested their nerves. But for seasoned burners, it was just another part of the adventure. Proof that the journey to the playa is often just as intense as the week itself. Complicating things further was the shutdown of the festival's temporary airport, known as 88NV. During Burning Man, this dusty airstrip actually becomes one of the busiest in the country, welcoming private planes, charter flights, and the Burner Express air shuttles from Reno, Los Angeles, and the Bay Area. Normally, it's a clever way to skip the brutal road delays. But this year, the same storm that shut down the gates also grounded nearly 100 aircraft. For burners planning to fly in, it was a nightmare scenario. Planes were forced to stay grounded, pilots were told to wait, and travelers had no choice but to delay their entry. Without the airport, one of the event's most unique access points was completely out of play. The small town of Wadsworth, Nevada also felt the impact. As the main route from Reno to Burning Man, Wadsworth suddenly became jammed with stranded vehicles. Authorities had no choice but to impose travel restrictions to protect their community. Imagine living in a quiet town only to see thousands of cars flood through overnight. That's the kind of stress Wadsworth faced. Once the storm cleared, restrictions were lifted and burners were finally allowed to continue. But officials still warned that conditions could change at any moment. Out here, the desert makes the rules. And this year, it was making sure everyone remembered who's really in charge. For many burners, this wasn't their first rodeo. Veterans know that Burning Man is as much about endurance as it is about art. Long waits, sudden weather changes, and logistical chaos are part of the DNA of the event. Yet, those very challenges often bring out the best in the community. People share snacks, refill water bottles for strangers, or simply trade stories to pass the time. This sense of connection in the middle of hardship is exactly what Burning Man's culture is built on. The principles of gifting, communal effort, and immediacy don't just exist once you set up camp. They often start right there on the road to Black Rock City. Still, the delays were no small inconvenience. First-time burners in particular felt the sting. Imagine your first glimpse of this legendary event being 8 hours of gridlock under a blazing desert sky. Or being a pilot who had carefully scheduled a flight only to be told the airport was shut. These kinds of disruptions test patience and resilience, but they also create stories that will last long after the dust settles. For many attendees, the challenges themselves become unforgettable memories. The Burning Man experience is never perfect, and that's exactly what makes it so raw and real. Once the gates reopened, Black Rock City began to fill quickly. Long convoys of cars rolled into the playa. Campers set up tents and shade structures, and art cars started to appear across the desert floor. The city was alive again, even if the storm had delayed its heartbeat. But the late arrival created another challenge: setting up camp while exhausted. Building shelter in the desert requires energy and careful planning. Stakes must be driven deep to withstand high winds, tarps secured, and supplies organized. Doing that after spending a full day crawling through traffic is not ideal, but for burners, it's all part of the process of creating their temporary city. The bigger question is what this year's storm says about the future of Burning Man. As extreme weather events become more frequent, the event's infrastructure will be tested in new ways. Can traffic systems adapt to sudden closures? Can the airport prepare better for storms? Organizers will no doubt review everything, from communications to logistics, to ensure safety while still maintaining the spirit of the event. Burning Man has always thrived on unpredictability, but the sheer scale of the event today means the stakes are higher. Tens of thousands of people count on this city to function, even when the desert is throwing its hardest punches. So here's the bottom line. Burning Man 2025 has officially begun, even if it stumbled out of the gate. The storms delayed the party, grounded planes, and tested the patience of thousands. But now, the gates are open, the playa is filling, and the spirit of Burning Man is alive and well. For attendees, these obstacles will be part of this year's legacy. Another reminder that the desert doesn't hand over its magic easily. You earn it through preparation, resilience, and community. And in true Burning Man fashion, the very challenges that nearly broke the event will become part of the story burners share for years to come.